and Ray and I are going to kind of tag team this, and all of you have kind of become your own Zoom experts. So as we go through this, if you have things that you want to share, please feel free. I feel like this is a program where they have a lot of great documentation, but it's still, you got to learn it and play with it some. So if you noticed, probably different from when you normally come to meetings, you went into a waiting room and it said that you were going to be admitted by the host. And I did that on purpose today because that's one of the changes that Zoom is going to push. Originally, it was going to be next week that they were going to push this. Now we got an email that says that they wanted to give people a little more time to get used to it. And so they're not going to push it until September. But so for people who, as you guys join, I'm getting a little alert that says, you know, one person's waiting. If there's multiple people joining at once in the waiting room, I can hit admit all. That's where you as a host can kind of control, like, if you wanted a chime, even just for you, so that you would get some kind of notification like, oh, there's somebody in the waiting room or something like that. But that's where, like, especially for Rachel, when you're doing your virtual community and stuff like that, where you're gonna have a lot of people coming in, it might be good to have a co-host, somebody who can be letting people in, because the other option is that you have to have a password when this update goes through. So it's not quite yet, but I just kind of want to make you aware, and that's why I'm doing it this way, so that you can kind of get the feel of what your participants are going to feel like, because it is going to be just a little different than what we have been doing, which was just pop in and join. And that's because of all of the security protocols that they put in place. So that's why I did it that way. So let me share my screen and we can kind of jump in. And Ray, I made you a co-host, so.
Yeah, I'm admitting people.
Okay, because I can't multitask that much. Okay, so please feel free to change your window or your screen or whatever. You do not need to see my face this whole time at all. I did put some makeup on for you guys though. And I only took a half-hour walk so that I wouldn't be all sweaty. But so to jump into this, I apologize. I took screen captures of myself, so you have to see my picture all through this. My husband was like, you could put a screen beam in there. And I was like, that's way too much effort. So first couple things, I took screen captures because when you're a participant, you don't get to see all of this. So I'm going to send this PowerPoint out when I'm done. And I would encourage you just to go in, open a meeting just by yourself even, and just play around with some of this, because it is stuff that you can't see as a participant, but only as a host. If I had the ability to make you all hosts, I would do that, but they won't let me do that. So I know that for some of the things that we're doing, we might only want specific people to be in. You know, I had a phone call with some ISCs last week that were going to have a meeting, and it could have been a little testy in that meeting. And so they were trying to figure out some of the controls that they can do, and how can I do this, and how can I keep everybody safe and protected, and, you know, help diffuse situations. So there are some cool things that you can do. So the first one is that you can actually lock the meeting. So this is under the security tab. And so if I say you were going to start at 1 o'clock and you did not want to have to catch everybody up, you know how like you'd have people join in like 10 minutes late and you always have to play catch up. Maybe you don't want them to do that you want them to just watch it later if you aren't going to do it. So you can lock the meeting so no one else will join. So then who's in there is in there. You can enable the waiting room. So right now you have the option. You can set that up when you create the meeting, or you can do it once you have the meeting open. Like I said, it's going to push you by the end of September to have to do it. So just kind of get thinking about, you know, as you're doing those bigger meetings, you know, if you don't want to have to do a waiting room, you are going to have to send a password out. Or maybe you don't want to have that and you just want to stream it. You know, there's different options there, but just so things to start thinking about. And then also under that tab, you can see, you can allow participants to do things or not do things. So if you have, my nephew would want to rename himself. He's just learned to use the keyboard, and he would have like some Minecraft name on there for himself. And I would not know who it was. If you don't want people to be able to rename themselves and you want to do it, you can do that. If you want them to be able to share their screen, you can. we've been having those presenters come in for the culture of engagement, and many of them, apparently that's like a thing that people have been doing, because I'm like, oh, well, you can share their screen. And they're like, I can? I thought only you could. So obviously whoever they've been attending meetings with has been having that so that no one else can share their screen. Right now, any of you could, because I don't have it locked. And you can also control the screen share, like if you want 2 people to share at once or something like that. But you can decide that. So even if you get in a meeting and you realize people are playing around and you don't want to see everything, you can turn that off even in the middle of the meeting. Right? Anything you want to add there?
I'm just playing around with this one reporting button. So you can report a problem too, and I'm just taking a screen capture of that so we can show that if we want to.
I will stop sharing and you can share it. And I apologize. Like I said, I have to take screen capture because we're using Zoom, so I can't just like show it to you live. And if you notice up in the top left-hand corner, you're gonna see a little badge that's green that's check marked. They've added enhancements. Oh, there we go. We can report. Now, Ray, how did you find that screen?
That's in that same security menu.
Okay, perfect.
Let's get rid of the other stuff here. Yeah, so this just lets you report uninvited guests, abusive conduct, whatever, and you can really attach that individual to this. And so that's a way. There are some groups internationally that are trying to bomb these meetings and ruin people's meetings, and so they're keeping track of that at the company corporate level. And so this just lets you include that information.
Cool.
Yeah.
And like, Ray and I were talking earlier, you and I and most of us have had meetings and we pretty much know who most of the people are. It would be where you were going to broadcast that meeting into a wider stance, whether you were putting it in social media or you were putting it in whatever. That's when you're going to, it's a pretty long code that would take to get into that exact meeting. Usually I can't type it myself to get into my own meetings. But, just to be able to keep an eye on who's in there, that's just another feature. Let me go back so you can see the next screen.
And that's probably one of the pieces of advice we should give, is that if you have to do a large training session, you really should probably call one of us to strategize what the best way is to do that. So like, for instance, Dean just contacted me. There's a county-wide CIT training for the Sheriff's Department later this summer. And it's primarily being conducted by mental health, but we're involved with it too. And he asked if it would be okay if we used Zoom to do that training. And of course, with us involved in it especially, it is. But it's one of those things where we might want to look at some different alternatives for that meeting, in terms of how do you handle security, how do you handle who gets to come in and have comments and all that. Do we do that for everybody, or do we also look at other things like broadcasting it live over YouTube or something like that?
So definitely there's lots of options, and there's probably not a right or wrong way. There are probably just less safe and more secure ways that you can do it. So some other security things for hosts. Did I skip? Okay, sorry. For the participant tab. So there's a couple of different things. So if you navigate to participants, even now you can see that there are 43 people on this meeting if you click on that little people icon, and then a list of the participants pop up. But as a host, I can hover over somebody and I can mute and unmute them, where you can mute and unmute yourself, and you can rename yourself by touching your area over there on the right-hand side of that image. I can actually do a whole lot of things. So when I pull up that window, if you click on that little ellipsis down here at the bottom, and it is ellipsis, I looked it up according to Wikipedia, just so in case anyone wanted to know today. Ellipsis, the 3 ... It gives you options. So mute participants on entry, or allow participants to unmute or remute themselves, allowing them to rename themselves. There's that play, enter, or exit chime. We had a culture of engagement meeting right at the beginning of the pandemic with David Uhl, and I didn't know that this was set on, and people were in and out of that meeting, and I think it dinged like about 100 times. So it's definitely good to know where those buttons are. But I just want to caution you probably can't see that right now because you're not a host. But so definitely when you are, or when you have time to play a little bit, play around with those just so you're familiar, because you don't want to get into the meeting and then need to be able to like have somebody mute themselves or not mute themselves and not know how to do it.
And this is probably also a good time to mention that if you are running a larger meeting where you're going to have to, where your workload as a host is heavy. I'm not talking about an ISP meeting, but something where, you know, you're actually doing training, or you're doing something where you're going to have to be monitoring a lot of things at once. You might want to have a co-host who does nothing but manage the people who are there. So let's say you have somebody who's getting out of hand. You know, Ann here could put that person in the waiting room and then ask me to go and take care of it, or, you know, we'd be monitoring that, and it would just be my role to go and talk to that person in the waiting room, find out who they are, find out if they, you know, if they're having problems or if they're complaining a lot. You know, I could talk to them. There's just a lot of different things you can do there without just removing the person entirely.
Participant controls, and I apologize, this window is kind of fuzzy. I did a screen capture and it was hard. So if I scroll over somebody's name for all of you right now, I can chat, I can send video, or start video or stop video. So if somebody's having trouble and you can see the little video next to them and they say, I can't get my camera to turn on, I can actually go and request their camera to come on or turn it off. So if you have someone who's not experienced with Zoom or forgot their camera was on and, you know, wasn't paying attention or was falling asleep or whatever, you can turn their video off. You can make them a host, you can make them a co-host, you can rename, and then right here I can put them in a waiting room, or I can remove them altogether. Again, I apologize about the blurriness. Actually, Ray, if you want to talk for a second, I'll see if I can take a better screen capture now that we have participants again.
You want me to talk about how to do an effective screen capture?
That would be
No,
that's
I'm
fine.
joking. That's a little joke there. But so so a lot of these things though really pertain to when we're working with the public. That's when you're likely to have to publish the meeting broadly, and that's also when it's likely that you might get somebody coming into the meeting without being well identified. I've really gotten in the habit, you know, we've been doing our board meetings and the board meetings in Benton County with Zoom, and we have to, by rule, stream those meetings live. And so I've gotten in the habit of renaming all of the board members by their proper names so that when we stream it, everybody knows who is who. But it also lets you know if you've got somebody on there who, you know, isn't a board member and doesn't really have the right to participate in the meeting, and we can help direct them to another avenue. In this case, you know, listening to it on YouTube.
And Jamie, I just saw your question. Yes, it does send an alert and asks if the camera can be turned on. It doesn't just do it. But it is a nice way, like if the person hasn't used Zoom very much, it's a nice way that you can just like get their camera, or at least get them to where the camera is. There we go. It's a little cleaner there.
There's still probably somebody in North Korea who is monitoring you as we speak, though. Okay, I'll stop with the jokes. Okay, good.
I like it. All right, let me share this again. I apologize. This is like my biggest pet peeve and it's not working. There we go. There's all the things that you can do. One of the other nice things that I really liked, though, is that it allows you, if somebody wants to record the meeting. So I'm recording our meeting so that people can watch it later. But if somebody else tried to record it, Zoom would actually send me an alert and say, hey, do you want to allow this person to record the meeting? So you're really going to be able to protect people's privacy that way as well. John says, what does it mean when you receive the message asking your host to share your video? Usually it's something that if you have it off, they've asked you to do it, but it's in that same area. So if you usually have it on, if you're in a supervisor or in a meeting with your team and your supervisor says, hey, I want everybody's camera on, I want to be able to really talk to people, and you have walked away, they might send you a message and say, hey, can we turn your camera on? Just as a prompt. It shouldn't be automatic. It should be something that somebody clicks. Okay, so screen sharing. This is where I was talking about if you look at the share screen. So today, any of you could share your screen. And I would like for you don't all have to do it, but go ahead and push the share screen button. And it should pop up with some different options. It pops up with a whiteboard. Especially people who have touch screen, this could be really cool. If you're gonna take notes and you wanna be able to just write right on the whiteboard, we actually did this in the OACB training. Personally, I would rather type. I don't have great handwriting. I have even worse handwriting with a mouse or with my finger. So, but it's a nice way, if you wanna be able to have that free flowing conversation. But you also should have all of the different programs you have open. Let's say you want to share something that's not on that screen. It just means you need to go out and open it first and then hit share screen again, and Zoom will let you pick that as well. And so Natalie said, I can't share my screen while another person's sharing. That's because I have it on. So now if I stop my screen share, it should populate so that you can at least see what you might want to share. Is that working this time now?
Yes.
Good, good.
You might also want to talk about those audio controls at the bottom there. And the one about optimizing for video and that kind of thing.
Yes, yes, yes. So when you go to share something, when that box pops up and it has all those different boxes that you could, click on the window that shares, down at the bottom, there are two little question marks. And I'm terrible at it because I always do it once, then remember that I didn't do it right. It says that you can share your audio and optimize for video. Is that what those words? No, share computer sound and optimize screen sharing for video clips. So if you're going to share something that you want them to hear your computer sound, Zoom tries to be intuitive, and it knows if you get an email ding and you're presenting, it doesn't want everyone to hear that email ding. So it doesn't share your audio unless you tell it to. And then optimizing the size for the screen. We went with this option because it had a better sharing optimization. If you remember back when we had High Five, it was even harder to do sharing video, and there was a lot of lag. It's still not perfect. You still might have audio and video not quite lined up, but it's a whole lot better than it was.
Yeah, Zoom was actually, that was the base coding of Zoom was to optimize it for video. That was what they were really trying to achieve. And when it does it, it takes into account not only what it's trying to broadcast, but also how many people are on the line. It just takes into account a bunch of different things so it can optimize it and try to eliminate that lag.
However, it was developed in a pre-COVID time when they didn't expect every person in your neighborhood to be on your internet at 1 p.m. and all the things that we're experiencing now. But it still has done pretty good, even when I had weaker Wi-Fi. So hopefully that'll work for you guys as well.
Yeah, we were talking to our Zoom rep last week when we've been negotiating with them for a new contract, and they said that in April they had 1.5 million support calls for people on the free account. So 1.5 million calls, and they didn't stand any chance getting any money back from that. Pretty interesting.
But that prompts you to buy it every time you log in. One feature that we just learned about, and actually Laura helped me find this, we have, we support folks who would have the use for closed captioning, whether they're in the deaf community or something else. And Zoom has the ability that we can hopefully try to help that. It's pretty hard to read somebody's lips via, if they usually are using lips when you're meeting face to face. So this actually is a nice way because it can be anybody that can help you. So when you click closed caption, we do not pay for a third party to do this. So you would want someone to join your meeting, whether it be an ISC assistant or just somebody that that takes really good notes, or if it's someone that works with that person, maybe they have a family member that they usually are doing that documenting for. However you want to do that, but you can actually just assign the participant to type, and then they can start typing as the people are talking to kind of share what's being said. Now, Zoom can do it for after the fact. You can ask it to document it. Like if you recorded the video, it would do like a speech to text kind of thing, like your phone or anything else does. But if you need to have a meeting and you want to be able to do that pretty quickly, this way you don't have to have something set up ahead. Questions about closed captioning? All right, I'm going to take that as no. Breakout rooms. Okay, so breakout rooms are pretty cool. If you've been doing the OACP training, they've started using them. I think the state has started using them some. We're just going to go into breakout rooms for the heck of it so you can experience it. I am navigating that. I did not set these up ahead. Zoom has the ability that you could prescribe how many people you want in it. And you could actually, if you knew who was going to be in that meeting, you could actually upload a CSV file ahead of time and tell them where they're going to go. If you always are going to have the same breakout rooms, you can make your meeting be a template. And so then the next time you have that meeting, it'll auto load the information. So there's some cool things you can do with it there. I also could put you in a breakout room. So this is another example of where having somebody be a co-host would be really important. Let's say you don't know who's coming to your meeting, but once they get there, you know where they need to go. We've been talking about this for possibly the provider meetings, so that a county board staff member is in each room. I would actually have to manually go in and put them in rooms and then just slide everybody else into rooms. So I wouldn't want to be the one speaking at the beginning while I'm setting that up, if that makes sense. If it doesn't matter, you can just go. But if we wanted to be able to kind of help drive the conversation, that's where that would be helpful. So I'm going to put us all in breakout rooms. And I would like for you to just share your favorite ice cream flavor. And so it's asking me, it tells me I have 43 participants. It's asking me how many rooms I want to do. So I'm going to do 6 rooms, and that tells me that it's automatically going to put 7 or 8 participants in there. So I'm going to make it be a little bit smaller so we can go. And then it has some really cool features, and I've actually created some directions from their website. You can like send messages out to let people know that it's, going to end in 5 minutes. People can, in the breakout room, go and ask for help. So if one of the hosts can go in, maybe there's a tough question or somebody's having technical difficulties, but it does feel like you're leaving the room and coming back. So the first time you do it, you're like, wait, did I just get kicked out? So if you're using, if you're doing this with people who aren't as experienced with Zoom or with, something like that, you'll want to make sure that you say, like, if you get kicked out, just join the same meeting. We'll all be right back, like, just so that you don't lose them forever. And I'm going to open the rooms. Did I do it right? Welcome back. Laura, that is a great picture of you.
Thank you. No makeup today, so I'm hiding.
So hopefully if you haven't,
No makeup today.
oh, we still have some rooms talking. So it's actually showing me like if there's still people in rooms, if they've not joined. If somebody joined late or joined the second time and wasn't in a room, it doesn't assign me as the host. So I can actually stay and like move people around. So I could have like taken Carissa out of a room and put her in another room unexpectedly. Hopefully not, but you know, if I wanted to mess with her. And then it shows me as you guys come back. So all I had to do was push end room, and that gave you the alert that it was going to end in 60 seconds. And so you can either leave the room or it'll automatically bring you back. So if you have that person who wasn't paying attention and like got automatically put into a breakout room, and then you come back to the main group and you're still talking, it's not
That music is really loud.
out in their own room.
Now, Anne, which tab is that under, or how do we
So-
find that?
It's only when you're a host, and it only shows up when you have more than one person. But like Kathy, I could see if you were going to do meetings with classrooms, you could even preload the classroom assignments in so that then when you hit breakout, it would just send them to their room to discuss whatever you told them to discuss. The one thing I will say is the chat is moving now. So like if you chatted it in your big group meeting, it shows up if you hit chat in your small group meeting. But when we tested it, it didn't before. So that's a newer thing. But put your instructions in there, because as someone who doesn't remember things very well, in the OACB training, they like start telling us things and I'm like, what were we supposed to talk about? Like I start to forget. So definitely just kind of keep that in mind as you're using that. Other questions about breakout rooms? Ray, I know you've been using it some for the board meeting. Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is that one practical use is when you have a subgroup that needs to meet confidentially for a few moments to discuss something. So we've been using it at board meetings for executive session, and I can, as host, I can just say, okay, these guys are board members. They go into the executive session room, and then when they're done, they just come back. I could envision a similar kind of thing if you're like in an ISP meeting or an IEP meeting, and the family has questions that not everybody needs to hear, or they want to discuss something just with their ISC or just with the school staff, that you could provide that privacy where they could go off into that virtual meeting room, discuss what they need to discuss, and then come back. I think it might be a nice option to offer that if they need it.
I have a question about that, please.
Sure.
Can the participants in that meeting decide how long they're going to meet, or does it always have to be the host?
So that's an interesting thing. So when we did executive session, I could not find a way that a non-host could end the executive session. They could all voluntarily hit a button and come back. That they could do, but we thought for a lot of that, for board members, that might be a little bit hard. So I actually arranged it with one of the board members to text me when they were done, and then we just ended the executive session and brought everybody back. And again,
also can ask for help though. So if you're in a meeting room and you wanted like to send a note to the host and be like, hey, we're going to come back now, or go ahead and press end, I could send a meeting from the breakout room to the host or question. I think it's like report issue or need help or something. And then that would tell the host, like, okay, it's okay for me to pop in for a second. Oh, you're done? Okay, I'll hit end.
So you're asking, you can also ask the host, can you join us for a minute? Or
Yep.
something like that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question / observation. When I was recording one of our team meetings, I noticed that, and this may have changed, any chat that happened during that meeting was recorded. So even if, let's say, I'm talking to Anne privately and I say, you know, Ray is a really terrible piano player, which I know isn't true, but if I did, I do believe that that will pop up in the chat. So just be mindful, you know, when you're having private conversations.
I will point out that my church is really, really small and they're desperate. So yeah, I'm not that good. So a couple of questions too we had in the chat box. So how is the timing for a breakout room? You can set a timer on there, but you can also just have it go as long as you need it to go. And they can decide when they're done.
And when you hit close, it does give everybody 60 seconds. So it's not like as the host, I just hit close and it just kicked you all out mid-sentence.
So when you're recording, that's an interesting question. Leslie asked how do the breakout rooms work when you're recording? My experience so far has been that it only records the main session. It doesn't record the individual breakout rooms, at least for the board meetings that we've had.
Now, I have never tried as a attendee recording while in a breakout room. So we could test that and see if we could try it sometime.
Yeah, that's an interesting deal.
Okay, any other questions about breakout rooms? This is kind of a cool feature of Zoom. So if you're on a group meeting, I know that Jen is on a trauma-informed conference group or trauma-informed committee that they were like trying to figure out how to do something like this. A lot of the other group or other chat functions or video functions don't have exactly the same kind of thing like the breakout room. So it's kind of a cool function. So finding meeting information. If you remember when we first got Zoom, the meeting minutes or the meeting ID used to be right at the top. But if I'm broadcasting that live, the whole idea is that I didn't want everyone to join my meeting. And so it doesn't make sense that it would be right there for everyone to see. So now you can find it if you click that little I in the top left-hand corner. And it does give you the option. So say you're in a meeting and you need somebody else to join you, it does give you a really quick copy the URL and you can send it to them via Teams or whatever. But the idea is so that if you are broadcasting it, you aren't going to get like everybody and their brother who sees that number to be able to join. So that's just a little change that they've done in like the format. Anything to add there, Ray?
Nope, that's good.
So I have one question about the question. So like when you're a host and somebody has a question in the chat, and maybe I wanted to go back and read the answers, you know, for later or whatever. Where can you pull that information from?
If you're recording it, it automatically saves the recording, and
So while you watch it.
Yeah, it's doing it while you're watching it. And so then when you close if you've done a recording yet, it processes a bunch of stuff when you end the meeting. And one of those is the text file. One of those is the Zoom recording, like with the audio and video and everything. It also does one, I think, that's just audio. So like it does a bunch of different formats. But then there's also a way, if you look at the chat, you can just save the chat as well.
Okay. We were in the provider meeting a few weeks ago, and I think, you know, some of the people had some great questions and answers, and it would have been nice to, what I did was I just copied it all and then put it into a document because I had no idea how to go back to that.
It doesn't come out pretty though. It comes out in a text file, like it almost looks like a notepad. So you definitely want to play with it, but it does capture it all. For the day of remembrance for Wendy, the ISCs were able to type in some things with the OACB staff, and then Sherry captured all of that and sent that to Cindy and John so that they could review it too. So it's a nice way to kind of capture all those things, but then you have to make sure that people are putting their questions and answers in the chat box or it doesn't get captured.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have other experiences with the chat? I'm not the expert, I just read a lot of their documentation.
So you mentioned that the chat follows you into the breakout room, right? So when you go in there, it's the same chat. Is it the same coming back to? Like if you're chatting in the breakout room, does that come back to the main?
We couldn't see that happen. When Ray and I tested it, I did not try it as a participant again, but when we tested it, what we typed in the breakout room was unique to what was in the breakout room.
Yeah, so I know that with Willie Jones and those guys, as they've been doing our training, they recommend that if you're chatting amongst your group, that you can copy and paste that into the main chat box when you come back to the main room. But it's other than that, it stays. What happens in the breakout room stays in the breakout room.
I knew you were going to go there.
You had to.
I will say though, that's something that hearing Lisa Combs from OACB use Zoom has been really good for me, because things that we started to take for granted, that we were using it so much that we know that you can like move your face around, or we know that, you know, if you need to minimize a screen or make a screen bigger, they're really good at, even though most of us have used Zoom before, stopping at the beginning and just doing some of that housekeeping thing so that you can have a more effective meeting. Okay, so meeting settings online. I know that we have the app on our computer and it's an easy way to go ahead and create a Zoom meeting. But if you actually go to this zoom.us/profile, it is a online version of your profile in Zoom. And so it has all kinds of things in it. And so I would encourage you, I'm going to give you a minute if you want to click there just so that it's in your browser history. It's a way that you can go and add and change a whole bunch of settings prior to the meeting, or about the meeting, or more detailed settings, things that you want to have preset for certain things. And it actually pulls up a list of all the meetings that you have scheduled. So if I want to apply settings only to one and not another, that's where you would upload breakout rooms ahead of time. You also can upload polls ahead of time, which we're going to take a poll in just a minute. But your login for that site is just going to be your login that you use for Zoom. And there are tons of things like how, you know, not just if you're muted when you come in and those basic things that the app populates, but like tons of questions. So it might be more than you want to mess with. But if you're really trying to do something specific for a certain meeting or a certain event, it would be a good place to check and see what all the options are. Ray, anything?
Oh, you're doing a great job.
I don't want to do all the talking. Okay, so polling. It's kind of fun. It can be fun things. It could be questions. You can release the poll whenever you want to. I did set up a poll for this, but I have never actually released the poll. So Ray, do you want to talk about polling for a second, and I'll figure out how oh, it says poll.
Yeah, you just click poll.
So I uploaded the question ahead, and it's going to give me as the host the option to launch the poll. So you can have these kind of set up. I've seen people that did it by slide number. So like if we were on slide 10 in my PowerPoint, I would have that polling question be kind of slide 10 so that it triggers me like, oh, ask this then. So I'm going to release our poll. And it gives me a percentage of how many people have voted. It gives me the time and how long. So if I was really trying to keep on track, I can end the poll like at 15 seconds because I have to go on. Or if I want to get everybody to vote, I can sit here and wait until 100% of the people voted. I've seen people aim for like 90% because that gives you a pretty good picture. So we're like at 72, 74. I went along with pop culture, Hamilton the musical. And then I, as the host, have the control on when I want to end the poll. So it looks like we're kind of sitting at 88%. So I'm just going to end it. And then it will give me the option. I can save my results or I can share the results. And so I'm going to share them. So hopefully you guys are seeing 55% of us haven't seen it but want to.
Or you could say, no, you were wrong and relaunch the poll.
Yes.
which is another option there.
Yes.
I haven't been on this side of it though, on the host side, and it's pretty cool because you're seeing the results come in live, and so the poll numbers are automatically populating, and you're seeing it go back and forth as people come in. So it's pretty powerful.
Like I could even see us using this. You know, we've all talked about ways that we could encompass, even when we were in face-to-face trainings, we wanted to be able to like get people to answer a question really quick. If you were in a Zoom room at admin doing this, you could easily have some people in there seeing the results of everybody else. Like it would be a cool way to do it.
It's not anonymous.
It's not anonymous? Is that
You
what
can
said?
make it be anonymous, but as a host, just in this quick view, I am not seeing individual people's responses. I would assume, since I didn't make it anonymous, that later I could go in and see like what people picked. But I haven't tried playing with that very much yet.
I think it could be interesting. Like we have a hard time virtually getting participation, like especially if you're training or like at a provider meetings, it can be really painful. So like I can see this where we're asking questions, like trying to get feedback to use this to get some of that. That would be really short.
And Pam, I was also thinking about competency testing as you go through it too.
Yeah.
You know, because you're going to see then, you know, like we were talking, it's not personal, so you're not going to know who answered what, but it would let you know if everybody's getting it or am I losing people along the way.
When I was teaching, they used to have you do it on your way out the door. They called it an exit ticket. And you would just answer like one of the three things, like I got it, I didn't get it, I need more help, like whatever. If you had anonymous, you would just know to look back and try it again. But it is a way that you can be asking a question and not just have that silent, like staring at people waiting for them to talk. That wait time that I am not good at. Yep, that one right there. Pam's.
And do you have to have that question set up ahead of time, or you can?
You can set it up when you're in there. Like you could go out and do it, but that would be another one of those times where you would not want to be the one presenting and releasing that poll at the same time. But that doesn't mean that you and I couldn't be talking in a meeting and us feel like, oh, we should go ask that question. One of us could jump out, add it to our meeting on the website, and then launch it in the app. It just takes a little bit more jumping around. I feel like I'm talking with my hands a lot today. I apologize. Okay, so waiting rooms and passwords, we kind of talked about this already. I just wanted to kind of show you what it looks like on the host side. So this is just an example of Shelly in the waiting room, but it shows that she's sitting in the waiting room. You can change how long the waiting room. I could send her a message in the waiting room and be like, hey, we're not ready to start yet. I'll let you in a minute, or, you know, whatever. But if you have the waiting room enabled, you can easily, like, say a meeting's getting out of control and somebody is just in that emotional state and they are just kind of, it's all spilling out. You could remove them to the waiting room and somebody could go remove themselves with them, one of the hosts or whoever, to try to diffuse that without it being recorded and everybody on that meeting hearing all of that personal stuff. Oh, Dawn did just bring up a good point. She said she kept forgetting to click close on the results showing. I can say that I'm done, but you have to like acknowledge. And that's another way of making sure that people are engaged, because if they can't see your face, it means they didn't pay any attention. And last thing, Ray, do you want to show your cool new video of all the fun things that might get to come to Zoom soon?
Do we want to?
2 minutes if you want to stick around.
Okay, this is just something that I found yesterday, which could be pretty fun.
I'm so excited. I want to sign up for the beta test.
Okay, let's see here.
One thing I didn't talk about that is kind of fun is the reaction button. So down in the corner, there's like some happy faces that when you are getting that silence, or you are used to everybody being muted and you're waiting for some kind of reaction, you can give some thoughts just on the windows. All right, I filled your time.
Yeah, that's a good place. And then also, if you look under participants, there's a few more things you can
Yes.
do. So like you can give people feedback in terms of I need to go slower, faster, whatever. So yeah, so this is a potential add-in that's in development right now for Zoom. Third party. Is the sound coming through?
No.
Let's try this one more time. Second.
So that's one of those times where if you shared your video and you didn't hear sound, go back and try sharing it again and make sure you clicked.
It's not like I asked you to illustrate that or anything. I think you did, and then I did.
Anonymous head in a box. So we made a new app that tries to make this a better experience for everyone, make it easier for people to present, inform, entertain over video. We call it because I think it's important to have a name that you can say while eating. And the basic pitch is it's
Hey Ray, we're not seeing
your.
you're sharing a different screen. We see your chat.
Here's how it works. I can
try it one more time.
We hear it.
This is all just to illustrate how difficult it is to share a screen. Yay. No. Try it again. How about now?
Hi there.
I was enjoying seeing your chat.
I'm really tired.
There you go.
It's so easy to feel like an anonymous head in a box. So we made a new app that tries to make this a better experience for everyone, make it easier for people to present, inform, entertain over video. We call it because I think it's important to have a name that you can say while eating. And the basic pitch is it's instant weekend update. Lets you live out your vicarious John Oliver fantasies. Yes, I know this is SNL. Here's how it works. I can control the room that I'm in. There's a wide selection of indoor and outdoor and animated backgrounds. I like this one, it's pretty fancy. And I can have a screen that I can put whatever I want on. I like to use this to show off my Instagram photos. You know, I have a lot of photos on Instagram that I like, and I figured I've got 14 hours a day on video, so I may as well inflict my Japan slideshows onto people as I'm talking to them. And this is great. This is a good experience. But the real magic of is using it to present. You know, when you present in Zoom or Google Meet, you have to go through this awkward dance of, oh, I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see my slides? And even when it works, you're asking people to choose between looking at you and looking at your materials, which is really kind of awkward and tedious. But in I can present like this. I can just put up any slides here. And of course, I need to get out of the way so you can see it better, but I can just go, and I can still be here and explain, and change slides and important business stuff. And then if I come to a slide that has a lot of numbers or a graph, I can make it big so you can see it. But what I also just did is I put myself between you and the graph so that you have to pay attention to me so I can explain things, explain. And then when I'm ready to have you look at it, I could just fade out of the way so you can see through me. Or I could become a Jedi ghost. Or I could shrink and fly and point to things like this. Well, I think here's the problem right there is where things went really wrong. Of course, I can use for all sorts of other things. I could put any window here, like a web browser. So this is a great way to look at your favorite websites or do design reviews. You could do live video. This is current CNN, and I could still go full screen and do the Mystery Science Theater 3K style of shrinking in a corner and making snarky comments here. Another use case that I use all the time is phone demos. I can AirPlay anything to here, so this is my live phone. You can see I've got 123,000 unread emails. I'm a really bad person. And if I want to demo something, I can just do it just like this. And this works the way you expect. I can go into landscape mode, and that works. I can go full screen. This is a menu of my favorite bakery in Chinatown. I can fly around. I could say, a load of the turnip cake, please. Lots of other things to know about, but basically it's really flexible, and there's a lot of features coming soon. Works with any video system. Zoom, Google Meet, YouTube. It's not trying to replace how you normally have meetings or talk about or stream content on video. It just tries to make it better. And there's lots of features coming that I'm really excited about. The main one is dynamic decks. We want you to throw out all of your old, boring PowerPoints. There's really no reason for anyone to ever send a PowerPoint around again, because this is better. It works exactly the same as a PowerPoint, but then it wakes up and explains itself. Here's how it works. I could just hit record, and I can send you a link. And when you click on it, you can watch it beginning to end like a movie, of course, but you can also flip slides. You can flip pages. And every time you flip pages, you control me. You control whether you want me to explain from that slide or the page, or maybe you want to look at it full screen and you want me to fade out of the way, or maybe you want me to shut up completely. It's the best of a movie and a slide deck put together. And then we're going to add multiplayer. Multiplayer is really cool. There's a bunch you can do with this. Let's say you and I are co-founders and we're presenting our dumb startup idea to investors. We could all be in separate rooms, but we have the same screen, our presentation, and it's synchronized. And so you can change slides, I can change slides. It just works automatically. We don't have to worry about who's driving, who's talking. Or if both of us are presenting, then I can shrink out of the way and you can appear next to me and we can have a conversation like this. And when it's your turn to talk, then I get out of the way thoughtfully. And when it's my turn, then I can back full size. Now, is very much still in beta. In fact, we're in early invite-only beta. But we are looking for people who can do interesting, worthwhile things with it to really help us make this a great product. So if you are interested, head over to app and sign up for the beta, add yourself to the wait list, and we will send you an invite as soon as we can. And we really appreciate it. We really appreciate the help. So thank you. Bye.
So it's not necessarily coming tomorrow. We won't all have it. There won't be a training on like in the next couple of days. But it is kind of cool to see that this remote work and remote environment is pushing people to do things that make it be a little less painful. As I tried to share my screen 3 times, you know, it would be really nice if it was right there. Okay, so that's all I have for you. What kinds of feedback, questions, experiences, I did it and I did it this way, kinds of things do we have?
I have a couple questions. In the past couple weeks, I've had some meetings that I've organized and then that other people have organized. And when we've gone in to get on the meeting, it tells us that the ID is invalid. So I don't know what to do about that. Like I've had to scramble and send out a new invite for everybody to get on.
I'm going to Google right now.
And my other question is, I've scheduled a couple Zoom meetings and then somebody's notified me that something's come up and we need to move it. So I'll go in and adjust the date or time. And it shows up on my calendar with the new date and time. But then I'll get notifications for the old meeting that it needs to start in 5 minutes. So I don't know why it does
I can answer that one because I have the same issue. So if you change only your Outlook calendar, Zoom doesn't communicate with Outlook once it creates the Outlook invite.
Okay.
So the notification that you're getting that the meeting needs to start in 5 minutes is actually coming from the Zoom app. And so unless you go back and change the Zoom app time, it thinks it's still then.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So I got to go back into Zoom and do it.
Or just ignore, it'll still let you meet with that ID as long as you, the host, go into that meeting. It just is annoying to get those alerts from Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what's happening is when you create a meeting in Zoom and when you create your schedule, then all it's really doing is pre-populating a meeting appointment in Outlook. So it just goes in and fills in all the blanks and puts in a message about the meeting and the ID and all that good stuff, but they're not really connected that way.
Okay.
You know, so one doesn't influence the other once they're created.
I am not seeing a really quick answer about the invalid meeting, but I will keep trying to figure out why it might be doing that.
There isn't any way that could have been canceled or?
No, because the meeting that we had today wasn't organized by me. It was organized by somebody else. And she just organized it today and sent the new invite out, and none of us could get on. It said invalid ID.
Could it be because the meeting is scheduled for over the 40-minute limit?
That was me, Ray. That she's talking about.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. And so Ann had said, I had got a hold of Ann, and she said that she would set me up so I could do the longer meeting. And I did set it for like an hour and a half, I think.
Did it kick you out?
It didn't even, nobody could get on. It said it was invalid.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured I did.
Here's my next question. Is it only on the ones that are long where you've asked for the license, or does it happen on short ones too?
Well, I'm assuming that mostly I ask you to extend my meetings almost every week, so I'm assuming they're mostly on the long ones.
I wonder, because I go in and change everybody's licenses every day, kind of, and that's kind of a workaround, because really they want us to pay for a license for everybody all the time. So I wonder if that's causing an issue, Ray?
It shouldn't be that. But if you can, Alicia, if you can reliably make an invalid meeting, I'd sure like to experiment with you.
Thanks.
Yeah, you know, everybody's got a talent.
I'll start somewhere.
That's right. No, but seriously, you might want to, just for fun, set up a meeting with me, maybe Ann or somebody else too, and let's see if we can get in. Let's see if you can recreate it, then we can figure out what's going on.
Sure.
What happened there was Alicia was out, and so I had scheduled the meeting with I think there were like 6 people, but I didn't need to attend the meeting. But in order to open the meeting, I had to attend the meeting, and so then everybody was able to get in, and I just turned all my sound off and minimized it. But then I got a notification like there were so many minutes left. So I got in to tell them, and it cut off. So
that was our solution to the error, because it was like time for the meeting and we didn't want to, everyone was ready to meet. So I had asked Tracy if she'd minded opening it up, and she did for us. So we could at least have that, have a meeting.
So it's tied to the meeting host, the person who created it. The only way so Tracy's really the one who should have had the extended license, even though you were the host.
No, we did 2 different ones.
Okay.
So she had the original one while I was off, just because I wanted to have the meeting set so we could have it as soon as I got back. And then we were kind of realizing that we would need more time, and I didn't want to run short. So then I talked to Ray, and he was saying that we could do that. So that's what prompted this morning I had set a new meeting. So it was totally separate.
did you set a new meeting and then not everybody had that new Zoom link, maybe? Because everybody ended up in the old one.
I was encouraging people to go to yours after mine wasn't working. I don't know, Allison, did it have the?
Yeah, that's because the new meeting just said it was invalid. So nobody could get in. So when she got with you, Tracy, about becoming the host for the old meeting, then she just let everybody know that we needed to get on that old Zoom invite.
Okay.
But I mean, it's happening to me with other meetings, not just today.
So here's the other thing that I would encourage you. If it's something that you created, go into the Zoom app and start your meeting there instead of just clicking the link. Because what the link is doing is it's taking you out to Zoom, like online, and then redirecting you back to your application. And what I'm reading here is that it looks like browsers are caching the links that we're clicking on. So when we do the quick link, or if you just went to join a meeting and typed in the code instead of clicking the link, it looks like that might help as well.
And will that help with everybody getting in if it says it's invalid? I mean, does everybody have to go to the web browser instead of clicking it from your Outlook?
I think those are two different issues. I do think that Anne's right that if you're the host, you should be starting it from the Zoom app. I think that's going to alleviate some issues.
Okay.
But I'm curious about the invalid number because I've not had that yet, and it sounds like you were doing everything right. So I really would like to try to practice that and see if we can replicate that issue.
Okay. Well, and it's just started happening here since maybe the middle of June, because before it never did that. And I've asked Ann to extend my meetings a lot.
So there was a big upgrade then.
Yeah. Something could have changed.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you are finding things like that, let us know so we can keep looking. Because maybe the order of doing something that we've been doing is messing up now, or because they did do a lot of changing. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
I just was going to share that I used the waiting room for provider interviews on Zoom, and it worked out like flawlessly. It was very cool.
I mean, it is becoming more and more powerful. And just so you guys know, the county has actually asked us. They've asked to join our license. They've been using other tools so far, but they really like Zoom, especially the court system really likes Zoom. And so we're in negotiations to have everybody in the county come under our license and have us administrate it. So that'll be a cool thing. Okay.
Lisa just asked if you still need the Zoom upgrade. It should have updated by the end of July or of June. But if it didn't, if you're getting a prompt that says it needs to be updated, just put in a ticket and Kaylee or Bobby can hop onto your machine because it does require an administrator to delete it before it does the new one.
And just to answer everybody, I don't think I sound like that guy. He's way more smart.
Sorry, Ray. We can actually push out the updates without getting on individual computers. I've been doing that a good bit a while back. I haven't done it recently, but most people should already be at 5.1 or 5.0, and I think they just released 5.12 or something like that. So I can start working on those and getting people updated. Just keep in mind, the update won't run if you currently have Zoom running. I just kind of did that because I didn't want to kick people off while they were using it just to do an update. So I'll run it a few times.
That's nice of you, Bobby.
I try to get everybody. So I'll start working on that.
Mm-hmm. And if you're wondering what version you have, you can go into the app and there's a setting there that you can see. Really, I just want to make Leslie's screen be big and I can see the baby some more. So I'm distracted now. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think we should just have Ava live at 2 o'clock every day. Can we just do that? Just 15 minutes of Ava.
Mm-hmm. Sign me up. Well, thank you all for the time. And please keep asking questions, sharing. If you find cool things that it does, I will send out the Zoom breakout room stuff that I pulled off of their website. So if you are going to do that, but I would encourage to try it once, like do a test run with some friends just to make sure that you got it down before you go into like, you know, the real thing.
Yeah, and we're open to training too. So if you guys need any help, if you need a dry run, if you want to experiment on us, feel free. We're here to help.
All right. Well, thank you all and have a great afternoon. Try to stay cool.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.